Thanks for tuning in to watch The Ordinary Filmmaker. It's Monday, October the 4th, 2021. Is Panasonic shopping around their LUMIX camera division? Will they be making an announcement later in 2021 saying they've sold it off? Well, we're going to talk about that, but also we have some good news that Panasonic does have an anniversary event scheduled for October the 27th, and they're not going to be making an announcement about selling off their LUMIX division. In fact, they're going to be announcing the Panasonic GH6. So we got some really big news items to talk about today, but first let's start off with the good news. The Panasonic GH6 is going to be announced on October the 27th. Panasonic put out a development announcement earlier this year, and they told us that they're going to be giving us a brand new Micro Four Thirds sensor and a new processor, which isn't all that surprising when you see the new video specs. 5.7K video. Now that's 10-bit, most likely 420. 4K video at 120 frames per second in 10-bit, again most likely 420, but 10-bit 422, you'll get that in 4K 60 up to 60 frames per second. And all that without overheating. And that's pretty impressive. Look out there to see what other cameras will give you 4K 120 or 6K video. And you're generally looking at something like the A7S III for around $3,400 or the Canon R5 with 8K at around $3,800. So to be able to do all this, to be able to provide unlimited recording and to do it for a price of around $2,500 or less, Panasonic's got a hit on their hand. Or do they? You see, the one thing that was absent from that development announcement was their autofocus system. Contrast detect, depth and defocus, autofocus system. Now let's go back in time a little bit. With the GH5, the GH5S, the GH5 Mark II, the S1, S1R, and S1H. All terrific cameras, all impressive cameras, but with a autofocus system that, how shall we say, is not trustworthy and dependable, and leads many to use manual focus to get really good results. Deeper Reviews channel with Chris Nichols and Jordan Drake does a really good job. They produce really good videos and they use Panasonic. But also, as Jordan has said, he's working with other people, so he's able to have people that can stand or sit in place while he can pull the focus and test it out, and then they go to shoot. If you're a single person crew, an ordinary filmmaker, a mom and dad, why would you choose a contrast detect autofocus system camera when Sony and Canon are constantly leapfrogging themselves with human eye detect autofocus, with animal eye detect autofocus, insect, anything with an eye, it does a pretty good job. And then Canon with the R3 coming out and saying, oh yeah, by the way, we now do vehicles, motorsports, motorcycles. So the development announcement by Panasonic completely left out any mention of autofocus, and there's one of two reasons. It's going to have the same contrast detect autofocus system that they know their customers are frustrated with, or number two, they've left it out because that's going to be their big reveal. Again, think about this. The GH6, with those video capabilities, without overheating, without record limits, 4K 120, 5.7K, again, without overheating, without record limits, for $2,500. It should sell very, very well. And that would make this a huge announcement. And I'm going to be watching it. Maybe I'll even take the day off. But now let's take a look at the negative news. There's an awful lot of market noise saying that Panasonic is shopping around their LUMIX division. Now, this might just be them putting out feelers. It makes sense. The market is in constant decline. The camera market since around 2011 has been dropping significantly, and 2021 is projected to ship just 7.11 million units, and that's interchangeable lens cameras where you can replace the lens. 7.11 million units. So the market's in decline. We have global material shortages. We have global parts and component shortages. And we have the Panasonic series of LUMIX cameras, less than 5% shipped units worldwide. That's huge. Now, for a company that believes in making profits, and any company that's on a stock exchange, they're there to produce revenue. They're there to grow shareholder value. And you can't do that with divisions that are constantly losing out year after year, time after time. So for Panasonic to be shopping around to seeing what their options are using an investment bank is not unheard of. They're supposed to do it quietly just to maybe suss things out, and that they might be doing that. Now, according to Tony Northrup and Chelsea, Panasonic is doing that, according to rumors from Nikkei. And Tony goes one step further in saying he believes that in 2021, it's the beginning of October, so that's 3 months left, and nothing's going to happen in the last 2 weeks of December. It's rare that anything happens at that point, but he says in 2021, Panasonic is going to make a huge announcement that they're going to be divesting, selling off, or closing their LUMIX camera division, that the GH6 will be the last announcement. And that is big news. That's huge. So there's a lot of noise in the marketplace. But we do have a rebuttal. Do you guys remember Yusuke Yamane, a director at Panasonic? He's usually the guy that's in the videos talking about the products. He works with supply chains, so he would know. He actually put out a letter to a Japanese discussion forum, shall we say, and addressed this directly. And he said 3 specific things. Number 1, that Panasonic is not shopping around the LUMIX division. Now that in itself doesn't mean that they aren't in discussions with investment banks looking at their options. And that doesn't mean in the future that they might not sell it off. It's still an option. This happens all the time. When companies are talking about mergers and acquisitions, they will always deny that they're in it, or they will make no comment, depending on how far along they are. And if a company is hiring an investment bank to look at their options, well, they're not looking at selling, but they're looking at their options. So it could still be on the block. Number 2, Panasonic has said that they're committed to micro four thirds and full frame. So the GH series, the GH6, we're getting an announcement on October the 27th. That is there. And also the S1 series. We're 2 years since we got the first S series camera, the S1 and the S1R. And then almost a year later, we got the S1H. Also, he said that with the GH5 Mark II, which has already been announced, and the GH6, they're working on many, many more. And what word did he use here? Yes, committed to releasing more impressive products, more impressive cameras. What does that lead you to believe? Well, we got the GH5 Mark II. We've got the announcement for the GH6. Unless they're coming out with something completely different, I think there's going to be a refresh of the whole S series line. And here's my prediction. I do believe, and a lot of this is more based on hope, I do believe that they're going to come out with a phase detect autofocus system, because if they do that within the GH6, then they've got a really good reason to re-release the S series 2 years later with an improved autofocus system. And that would be amazing. So an awful lot going on with the Panasonic. And their virtual announcement, October the 27th, is 4 weeks away. We've got a lot of time to speculate. We've got a lot of time to wonder and discuss. And I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you think that Panasonic is going to sell off LUMIX? What do you think about the GH6? Is it going to have a phase detect autofocus system? And if you're a Panasonic user, if you're a Panasonic fan, I get it. You're loyal to the platform, and you even know, I've seen discussions in forums saying some sarcastic comments about how you yourselves are frustrated with this lack of moving to a phase detect autofocus system. If I had the Panasonic GH5 and had a bunch of lenses, I'd be looking at Canon and Sony, and I'd probably look at the GH6 as that kind of last step before maybe going to those 2 companies. But if the GH6 was to provide phase detect autofocus system, I'd happily upgrade to the GH6, but I want to see what happens to that GH6. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Is Panasonic being shopped around, or is Panasonic looking at options with their LUMIX division? And what do you think about the GH6? Oh, and one last thing is really, really important. It could do me a lot of, really help me out. Go ahead and click like and subscribe. I know you're comfortable in your chair. You're probably enjoying a nice beverage or enjoying a nice snack, but please, before it goes to autoplay, go ahead and click subscribe, because that really does help this channel grow. I don't understand how exactly, but when you comment, when you provide a like and subscribe, it feeds into YouTube's algorithm about engagement, saying that you're interested in my content. So what they turn around and do is they go around and tell others about my content, and my channel grows. So please, thank you. Somebody just subscribed right now. So please go ahead and subscribe. And also, I am selling an Ordinary Filmmaker baseball cap, this one right here. It's $34.99 at ordinaryfilmmaker.com/merch. I use these a lot when I'm out filming, because, as you can see, I'm losing a lot of hair. And you know what? There's nothing worse than sunburn on your head, especially when you go to sleep, and that pillow is causing you lots of pain and discomfort. So Thank you so much for sticking around, watching this video. I do very much appreciate you taking time out to watch. But that's it for now. Stay tuned as more comes out with Panasonic. We'll see you again soon.